everyone, and welcome back to The Real Steel, where we talk all things Pittsburgh Steelers, no BS, just a real steel. I'm your host, Jeff, joined by my co-host, Polt. Polt, it's early April. The Buccos are buzzing. The
Yes,
Pens are
sir.
buzzing. But we're here to talk Steelers. It's been quite a while since the season wrapped up. Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl. I don't know if we talked before or after that, but we have some developments with the Steelers that we can finally talk about. We're getting ready for the draft coming up here at the end of the month, and I think it's just time to talk about what's been going on with the Steelers. How you feeling over there?
Good, man. Yeah, it's good for Pittsburgh sports right now. The Pens are finally going to make the playoffs again. Looks great. Pirates are on a 5-game win streak, and the Steelers right now are all positive. I mean, it's the offseason. Everybody's a champion at this point in the year, and everybody's going to win the Super Bowl. So we got to temper those expectations maybe a little bit, but it's cool to have some good positive things to talk about. And it's been a while, so it's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, we're back, and I think we got to talk first and foremost about, the biggest news that happened in
Yeah.
late January, which I think, to be honest with you, probably 99% of all Pittsburgh fans were against.
hmm
But the Pittsburgh Steelers made a hiring at head coach in Mike McCarthy, and I'll admit it. I was in that probably majority of 99% of Pittsburgh Steelers fans that
Yeah.
were not happy with the Mike McCarthy hiring. McCarthy coming previously from the Packers and then the Cowboys, 18 years of head coaching experience, won a Super Bowl in Green Bay, beat the Pittsburgh Steelers actually with Aaron Rodgers, had a very successful offense in Dallas, but didn't
Yeah.
really get the job done there. And now he's the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike McCarthy's what, 62 years old? He's a Pittsburgh native. And I think a lot of people are skeptical about the hire. I think there are a few people that are excited about the hire. I've kind of come down a little bit, or maybe come back down to earth post head coach hiring.
Yeah.
And I think the sole job here of Mike McCarthy is to bring in the next quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if that's the job that he can do, then can't be too mad about that. But that's a quick gut reaction 3 months or 2.5 months post hiring. I know you were maybe a little bit, I don't know, feeling differently than I was. So why don't you chime in here with your thoughts on this new head coach for the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, I think honest, immediate reaction, I felt the exact same way. I was like, what the heck? Why did we actually do this? I wasn't real happy. I sat there watching my TV, whatever I was watching at the time, and was not real happy with the decision. But I quickly, much more quickly than maybe you, came around to the idea and just we haven't been an offensive football team in, I mean, you could say, I guess, the Killer Bees era, but we always were rooted in defense and with Mike Tomlin, and now it's a change of pace. And Mike McCarthy, I don't have a lot of the stats, but he's had really, really solid offenses, whether it's in Dallas or Green Bay, like you mentioned. And I think he is going to bring a whole nother perspective to this team, just with creativity on the offensive side of the ball and just a whole different scheme that might help everybody on the team. And there's going to be definitely more focus put to the offense, and we're not going to have to worry about these coordinators that have no idea what they're doing. So from that perspective, I was really happy about it being a new era. But then once he got introduced and the emotion that he showed, and showing how much he really cares, because he's a Pittsburgh native. I mean, this means more to him than anything in life, you could probably argue. And the fact that he cares that much, to me, shows he's going to put that as much effort as he needs to in order to get us to win. And I want a leader like that, and having a Pittsburgh guy in the building maybe is a good thing. And he understands what the Pittsburgh Steelers are all about, so maybe he can return us to glory. But I really think, from an offensive perspective, he's a huge upgrade. And then defensively, we've been saying for years how we needed a new voice, a new scheme, a new whatever. And his coaching staff has been a lot of home runs, and he hasn't gotten absolutely everybody that he wanted, but he's gotten a lot of the guys he set out to hire. And Patrick Graham's going to be a really good defensive coordinator who's had success with bad teams like the Raiders, who have a lot less talent than we do. So from that perspective as well, I'm really looking forward to it. But the key is what you said at the end there. And this is how I have felt from the moment we hired him. He has one job, and it's not to win a Super Bowl. It's to find us a franchise quarterback in the next 5 years. And if he does that, I mean, sure, I'm going to be upset if we're bad, but if he finds us a long-term franchise quarterback, I think his hiring was a success. and he's had success doing that. So let's hope he can do it, and we'll have to be patient.
Yeah, you brought up some good points. I pulled up a few stats on him here. Career playoff record 500. He's 11-11 in 22 games. Won
Yeah,
one Super Bowl, as I mentioned, the 2010 season, which the Packers beat the Steelers. Overall win percentage 608. So he's 174, 112, and two ties. Mike Tomlin was a .628, and 8-12 in the playoffs. And so, a lot of people are kind of arguing or feeling like this is kind of Mike Tomlin 2.0. I think to
hmm
the points that you made, um, Mike McCarthy is going to come in and probably do his best to prove that he's not. I think the
yeah,
changes that he's made in the coaching staff, the changes he's made from an offensive perspective, and I think he's going to stay in his lane and really respect, what the other people on the coaching staff are going to be able to do. Now, from an
yeah.
offensive perspective, I think he's going to be quite involved there, but I feel like he's probably the D coordinator that he brought in. He got a guy who has some experience from the Raiders, and probably just going to let him kind of call his own game, right? He's building the Steelers coaching staff, which is something that we've never really had.
Yep.
And so I think there are some things to be excited about, even if on the surface this seems like a Mike Tomlin 2.0 and just another old guy and, maybe nothing really exciting. He is going to be probably the third or fourth oldest head coach in the league. Last year Pete Carroll was in his 70s, Andy Reid 67, Harbaugh, who is now the head coach of the Giants, is 63 or 64, and then Todd Bowles, Jim Harbaugh, they were both in their young 60s. So Mike McCarthy will definitely be in the top five in terms of oldest head coaches. But I guess what does that matter if he does what we expect him to do, right? Everyone wanted
Right.
kind of that young gun, newly, minted, successful coordinator type coach. But at the end of the day, maybe it wasn't, the pool wasn't what the Steelers wanted or the candidates weren't there. And so they made this decision and we're going to ride with it and see what happens. Yeah, I don't really have many words beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're speaking. That's why everybody was so upset. It's because we wanted the young coach, and everybody wanted the young offensive coordinator, the young defensive coordinator that was going to lead us for a lifetime. Because that's how, I mean, that's how we know coaches. Coaches are here for as long as they want to be in 10, 15, 20 years. That's not Mike McCarthy. He was signed to a 5-year deal. Like you said, he's in his 60s. I don't really see him being here for 10 years or 15 years. And I think they're okay with that. I think they want him to be a transitional coach. And if you look at it, the two main guys that other people wanted were Noah Schiehlhaus and Chris Shula both from the Rams, and neither of those guys ended up leaving the Rams. And we weren't the last job to pick a head coach, so obviously other NFL teams felt not as strongly about them either. And the rumor is Chris Shula had a really really bad interview with the Steelers, so it sucks to not get that young guy, but maybe they didn't have the young guy that they wanted at this point in time, and they're willing to give a guy with a track record of really good coaching or really good quarterback decisions and development, and give him a chance to maybe take us through a transitional period. So I'm all for it. Definitely even more now. Just hearing him talk more and more makes me even happier that he's the Steelers coach. Again, not long term, but for the next 5-ish years or whatever it is. And I think it'll be good. I think he'll stabilize the team and hopefully find us our quarterback.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, and I think the staff moves that he made, some were probably expected,
Yeah.
some were maybe unexpected. He brought in our offensive coordinator now was previously in Minnesota, and he was he was a wide receiver coach. Yeah, he was a passing game coordinator for the Vikings.
Yep.
The defensive coordinator we brought in, he was previously a defensive coordinator for the Raiders.
And I think the Giants.
Yeah, and so he's, a lot of these guys are completely new faces to the team. We did lose Danny Smith to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so no more special teams excitement with Danny Smith.
Yeah.
But it's, I would say, kind of a much more robust staff that we have here, and we got a chief of staff, and we have, different special names for some of these positions that I feel like have never been on the Steelers before. So I think it could be, maybe at least turning the page to kind of start that new era that a lot of people wanted, right? It's
Yeah.
like putting some of the things in place for that to happen
Hmm.
without kind of fully being there. I think the Steelers are. It's pretty evident that we are committing to not like rebuilding from scratch, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of what I think the Mike McCarthy hire meant was
Yeah.
like, we're not going to start completely over. And we'll talk about what our quarterback situation is and our roster and all that stuff. But yeah, I think it's like, making a step in the right direction. I hope that we'll be able to kind of be set up for success without kind of taking those 2 or 3 steps backwards.
Yeah, and like you said, I think it's a much larger staff than Tomlin ever had. There's a lot more. People say some of his coaches had roles he never gave them titles for. Well, everybody has a title now, which is how the league's going, and it's a good mixture of young and also older, experienced guys like James Campen being a coach for 21 years, but Jari Evans, who's they're saying is one of the up and coming offensive line coaches, only been a coach for 4 years. So he has a good mix of youth, but also experience. And I think that's really going to play a pivotal role in, like you said, progressing us to the next phase of what the Steelers coaching staff and Steelers franchise is going to look like. So yeah, I think from that regard, I think it wasn't a complete home run, but I think he did really well with the coaching staff hires.
For sure. Okay. What else do you want to talk about with respect to Mike McCarthy? Anything you feel like is worth covering? I know one question I can at least end with to pose is, you mentioned he signed a 5-year deal, right? A lot of people are kind of anticipating this is going to be that bridge coach. Is that
Yeah.
what you're fully anticipating? Is this could be just that short gig, identify who the next one is, get us that quarterback and move on, call it a day?
I mean, I think so. It ultimately will probably, I mean, like everything, it will come down to results, but and whatever he wants to do too. I mean, at 60, what'd you say, 63? I mean, does he
Yeah,
really want to
62, I think he is.
does he
Yeah.
really want to coach into his 70s? I don't know. Maybe he does, but if he struggles, he'll be the first one to want to get out of there probably. So I do think it's a bridge. I think he knows the situation. I mean, Omar Khan doesn't if they don't figure that out in 5 years, he's probably gone too. So yeah, I definitely think it's entirely a bridge situation.
Okay, cool. Well, I know there's plenty of stuff that we can talk about with how the team is shaping up. But before we do that, I think I want to flip it over to you. We owe a little bit of kind of a maybe more so for us than actually for any listeners, but we owe a little bit of kind of the part 2 of our recap, or at least seeing where things ultimately landed with our predictions on the 2025 season.
Yeah.
You got some notes over there, some stats that showed who proved to be the better predictor.
Yeah, so we did 3 sets of predictions. We did record prediction, which you did not give game by game predictions, but you did say the Steelers would go 10-7. You were correct. They did go 10-7. I said 11-6, so I was a little bit higher on them than you, but still, that's actually not that bad. In terms of stat predictions, it was very lopsided. Very, very lopsided. We had 16 total predictions. I went 3-13.
Thanks.
You went 9-7. So
How about it?
not bad. The big ones here, I said Caleb Johnson was going to be our leading rusher. You said Jalen Warren, so that obviously didn't turn out very good. The sack leader, which is kind of interesting. We thought TJ Watt we both said he would have over 15.5 sacks, but he didn't. Obviously, only had 7.5 or 7. You said Nick Herbig would be the number 2 sack leader. That was behind TJ in both of our predictions, but he was the number 2 guy behind Alex Highsmith. So I gave you that one. I said Cam Hayward. Yeah, some of this is pretty bad. My predictions were, I said Roman Wilson would be the second leading receiver in yards. That didn't happen. You said Pat Freiermuth, which was pretty perfect. So yeah, the season did not go statistically at all how I saw it, but you saw the board pretty well, which is good.
I felt like it was kind of predictable, right? I mean, it was a good
You picked
way
Peyton
to
Wilson as the tackle leader. I mean, that's pretty solid.
yeah. Yeah, I felt like there was a predictable element to the 2025 Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm hopeful that in 2026, when we do these again, that I'll get 3 of 16 right for the better.
Yeah.
In that, it'll be some change, because I just felt like there were a lot of things that I don't know, seemed kind of status quo with the Steelers there. So I think maybe you were a little too optimistic with with some of your picks.
Oh yeah, my bold predictions were even worse. I said Roman Wilson would become the clear number 2 wide receiver with 700 receiving yards. That obviously didn't happen. And I said T.J. Watt would lead the league in sacks with over 18.5. That didn't happen. You said you got one of two right. You said Peyton Wilson would lead the team in tackles. But you were wrong on the tight ends would have more touchdowns than wide receivers. Tight ends had 8. Wide receivers actually ended up with 13, which was kind of shocking. We both thought Darnell would have a lot, but he did not.
Well, and it was, just a terrible year for Jonnu Smith, right? I mean, that
True.
would never. Granted, Darnell Washington stepped up into more of an elevated role, but boy, what a bust was Jonnu.
Yeah.
But okay, cool stuff. Well, good way to kind of tie a bow on the season, I guess. Those are always interesting.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of got to talk about what's happened with the roster here. I have a list of some names that are no longer with the Steelers. I think it's worth mentioning those. And then maybe we can talk about some of the new additions to the 2026 Pittsburgh Steelers and beyond, because there are some things to be excited about. I look at this list here, and I'll read you some of these names, which you're familiar with, in terms of our free agent losses. I think some are bigger than others. But at the end of the day, I don't see anything that is glaringly creating a massive hole for the Pittsburgh Steelers into 2026. We do lose a couple guys in our secondary that were sizable hits. James Pierre signed a 2-year deal with the Vikings. Miles Killebrew signed a year deal with the Bucks. Chuck Clark went to the Lions, and Kyle Duggar went to the Bengals. So we did lose a lot of depth there in the secondary, particularly at the safety position. Kenneth Gainwell, who, man, what a year Kenny Gainwell had for the Steelers. He ended up signing a 2-year deal with the Bucks as well. We did lose Isaac Seumalo to the Cards. Big deal for him. 3 years, $31 million. So that does kind of create a hole at the left guard position for the Steelers. And then we finally kind of let go of Mr. All-Purpose Connor Hayward, who ended up signing a 2-year deal with Las Vegas for about $5 million.
He got a lot of money.
He did. I mean, he was a utility guy for the Steelers.
Great special teamer
for him. Great special teamer. And then the last guy on this list is Corliss Waitman, who signed a deal with the San Francisco 49ers. But I'll leave that open because that gave us the opportunity to sign back Cameron Johnson, which is a great deal for the Steelers. I know we went back and forth in camp with Corliss Waitman, Cameron Johnston, and we ended up cutting Cameron Johnston, keeping Corliss Waitman. That proved out to probably be not the best decision there, and the Steelers ended up picking Cam Johnston back up for a 1-year deal this year. So that's pretty exciting. There's a fair amount of names on here in terms of free agent signings, but maybe we can just talk about some of the big ones. Talk to start about some of the guys that the Steelers retained. So free agents that were on the Steelers and that we ended up, bringing in for more. Ryan McCollum, offensive lineman depth piece, we signed for a year. Cole Holcomb got a 2-year deal for $5 million, and Asante Samuel. So we signed him midway through the year last year, right?
Yeah, towards the end,
cornerback, and he played pretty well. So he's probably in a position to be our starting corner next to Joey Porter Jr., right?
Maybe, depending on where they want to slot him because of our other signing of but we won't get into him just yet. I mean, Asante Samuel.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to mention the Jamal Dean signing, 3 years, $36 million out of Tampa Bay. Has been a really, really good corner in the league for a long time. He's not that fast, but he's tall, kind of like Porter. And it's going to be Porter, Dean, and Samuel as our 3 main guys, I think, with maybe Jalen Ramsey somewhere in between. But them signing Samuel for the 1-year, $4 million deal and letting James Pierre walk for very similar price, but 2 years, just shows you the upside they think that I think they believe Asante Samuel has. I mean, he was a stud corner a couple years ago and then had the neck injury, so teams were scared of him last year. But I actually like it. It sucks to lose James Pierre, but he is older and only has 1 year of tape that was really good. So, yeah, all these guys they kept, none of them are real flashy. Asante Samuel is probably our third corner, which we know corner depth is really important. But Cole Holcomb will be a special teamer. I mean, nothing too flashy, but good, solid rotational pieces and depth pieces for the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, and we forget that Cole Holcomb at one point wore he had the the dot in
Yeah.
terms of being a captain on defense at the linebacker position. So Cole Holcomb is a good locker room piece, good depth piece at inside linebacker, yeah,
Yep.
and special teams as you mentioned. So that's great. I think this Jamel Dean signing is huge, right? We
Yeah.
we now have, I would say, a really robust corner. I would say maybe a holistic, you know, corners, nickels, whatever you want to call it, right? Aside from the safety piece, which I think might be a hole that we'll hopefully probably address in the draft. Um, well, maybe not. We'll get to one of the guys we signed there too, but
Yeah.
looking pretty good, I would say from the cornerback position or defensive back.
Yeah, and I was trying to find it, but I couldn't. I mean, what's Jamel Dean was one of the top like cover corners last year, according to some kind of stats, just up there with Joey Porter Jr. I think they were both like top three. So, I mean, Jamel Dean's a little older. I think he turns 30, or is in his 30s, but he can still play, and he's been a really really good corner in this league, and I think he knows this type of system coming from Todd Bowles. I think is sort of similar, and he chose us. I believe he could have got more money elsewhere and chose to come to the Steelers, and has spoken really highly of the Steelers. So yeah, I feel really good about, for once we're going into the draft not thinking we need a corner. I feel like every year
Hmm.
we need a corner. And like last year they got Darius Slay. This is not a, like people are worried this is the old guy hot signing. This is not Darius Slay. This is not Patrick Peterson. This is a real time player, like a top corner in the league right now. And yeah, I'm excited about the defensive backs.
For sure. Yeah. So on that note, right, another big signing, Jaquan Brisker, safety. Most recently, I think was Chicago. Yeah.
Yep.
1 year for $5.5 million. More for us to be excited about because he's a Penn State guy.
Yeah.
But
He's also
Jaquan
from
Brisker is
Gateway. I mean, he's
yeah,
from
he's
Pittsburgh.
he's a
He's a
Pittsburgh
Pittsburgh
guy
kid.
too,
Yeah.
which is exciting, right? I think he knows Joey Porter Jr. Pretty well from time at Penn State, and I think this is I would say a home run signing too with Jaquan. He's I don't have any stats on him. I don't know if you do, but he's been pretty successful,
Yeah.
and had some pretty darn good years. 1 year, almost $6 million deal, is a pretty solid signing.
Yeah, and it's sort of, I mean, the rumors were he wanted to come back, and it's sort of a prove it deal in his hometown, which is awesome. But I mean, he can play everywhere. He can play. He's mainly in the box. He's more of the strong safety than free safety, and he will make a difference in the run game, and that's something we need out of our safeties. I feel like towards the end of the year that fell off. Ramsey played more free safety, and then these other guys were rotating into strong, and it was a little tough. So I am interested to see what they do with the safeties, because Jaquan Brisker is going to be on the field, at least you would think. And so what are they going to do with these three safeties of Deshaun Elliott, Jaquan Brisker, and then does Jalen Ramsey still play safety? I don't know, but having three guys back there, we saw injuries happen all the time. You need depth, and I think Brisker is way better than depth. I think he's a full-time starter that will make a huge impact. So, and it's on the cheap. 1 year for $5 million is nothing for a starting safety. So yeah, I think they filled a hole, and people are worried. Two strong safeties, him and Deshaun Elliott. I think they'll figure it out. I'm not too concerned. These guys are professionals, and they can move all around. So I think overall great signing.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's stay on the defensive side of the ball because we have a couple flashy pieces on offense we can talk about. But we did sign a 2-year deal with Sebastian Joseph Day, so pretty good deal for this guy. He's a little bit older. He's a defensive tackle. He's 31. He's played for multiple teams in the league. I think he started his career with the Rams, mostly recently coming from Tennessee. I don't think he's extremely flashy by any means,
Nope.
but he's going to be a great depth piece for us, and he's stayed really healthy the last few seasons. I mean, he's played upwards of 14, 15, 16 games for the last few seasons, and his 2 years at Tennessee, he played all 17 games. So kind of a career guy with experience, and I think he's going to be someone who just kind of comes in, plug and play, and will be a good addition to kind of help solidify from a D tackle perspective. What about
And
you?
where he's most important is he's not flashy at all, because he's known as a run stuffer, and he's one of the top run stoppers in the league, and he's had really really good success over that in his entire career, especially the last couple of years. And what this allows us to do is put guys like Keanu Benton and Derek Harmon in their more natural positions, more D end than nose tackle, and and that's huge for us. I mean, it'll allow these guys to play their real positions and thrive there. So I think this was a home run signing as well. Again, not flashy, but he's going to be in there and stuff the run like a nose tackle is supposed to do that we haven't had for years. So yeah, really good pickup here.
Cool. Okay. Two guys on offense that I think we really got to talk maybe a little bit more in depth about. I'll start at the running back position because I mentioned that we lost Kenneth Gainwell, and I think if you ask every Steelers fan, they probably would have wanted to keep Kenny Gainwell. He had a really,
Yep.
really great year, proved to be so good out of the backfield, both catching and running. And so it was sad to see him go. But if you ask me, I think we probably got the next best player that we probably could have that has a lot of utility, and that's Rico Dowdle. We signed Rico to a 2-year, $12 million deal. And here's what's really cool about Rico Dowdle, man. He's had the last 2 years have been 1,000 yard rushing seasons for this guy. He's coming to us from the Carolina Panthers. Prior to that, he was in Dallas for a few years. He's 27, so it's not like he's old or young by any means, but definitely has some experience. And if you watched him with the Carolina Panthers, man, he's been fun to watch. He averages almost 5 yards per carry at least over the last 2 years. And gosh, I think he's going to be such a good addition to the Steelers and hopefully help, fill some of those holes that people might feel will be missed with Kenneth Gainwell gone. Hopefully a great compliment to Jalen Warren. I'm really excited to see Rico Dowdle in a Steelers uniform.
There's two things there. So one, the 2024 season with the Cowboys was with Mike McCarthy as the coach and, offensive play. I think he called plays. So, I mean, he had 15
Good
starts
point.
in 16 games and ran for 1,000 yards. So, and that was his breakout season that got him signed by the Panthers. He has experience with McCarthy, and then he followed it up with an even better season with the Panthers. So he's on the up and up and likes playing with McCarthy, which I think is huge. But the second piece of that is the change of pace to Jalen Warren. I think partly why they may have because his deal was very similar to what Kenneth Gainwell got. I think that they kind of went this route, which he was slightly cheaper, but it's because he's a different back than Jalen Warren. I think we said this throughout the year that Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell were sort of the same exact player, the change of pace, third down, pass catching type back. And that made Jalen Warren less valuable, in my opinion, throughout the year. But what I think what this does is it will make Rico Dowdle the main bell cow, the main runner, and let Warren really thrive in what he's best at, which is the pass catching and change of pace type stuff like he was with Najee Harris. So I'm really excited about what this backfield can be, and I think it's a great signing.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just excited to see these two guys together, and what was different from this year or the 2025 season, at least probably the last 10 games of the season or maybe the last 12 games of the season, is you really started to see how valuable it was to have a duo at the running back position, right? Steelers have always been a kind of a single down back, bell cow guy, and maybe you have a third down guy come in who's a heavier runner. And I think it took maybe Jalen Warren being out in the Minnesota Vikings Ireland game to see how good Kenneth Gainwell was going to be. And as that evolved throughout the season, you really saw a lot of value with two running backs. And so I'm hopeful that from the jump, they'll be able to do that with these two guys. Heck, maybe you have a couple, plays where they're both involved. Like you had kind of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery in Detroit. These are going to be really, really, really great, backs to have with the Steelers. So I'm pretty thrilled to watch both of them.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I said bell cow for Dowdle, but I think it is going to be a split like Gainwell was. But it's more like Sonic and Knuckles, like you said, with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, two different styles, and I think that's gonna be an even bigger impact. Gainwell's a big loss, but I think Dowdle's a good replacement.
Yeah. So that leaves us just to talk about the big one, right? Steelers made a massive move mid-March, to trade for a wide receiver that may be the wide receiver that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to go alongside DK Metcalf, right? Last year, we struggled to find our wide receiver too.
Yeah.
And it seems like the Pittsburgh Steelers may have done the right thing here. We make a trade and we bring on Michael Pittman, 3-year contract. I think this is close to a $60 million deal. So pretty
Yep.
sizable to get someone, near $20 million per year. And Michael Pittman was great on the Colts. He's had so many different quarterbacks that he's played with, and I think that the goal is hopefully we can find him a consistent quarterback. We'll get to figuring out whatever we're going to do for this season,
Yeah.
but Michael Pittman could be a really really great addition to this team, and I wish that we could have had someone like him on the team last year. He's he's a hell of a receiver, and
Yep.
I really think could be the perfect plug and play for our team.
Yeah, and his style I think fits our whole, right? I mean, Metcalf is the athletic, like bigger receiver, and not that Pittman's small, but Pittman's going to go over the middle. He's 6'4", 223. He's going to make those big contested catches over the middle that we saw Metcalf struggle with at times. I mean, if we're going to be honest, some of those slants over the middle and stuff, he struggled a bit. Pittman's going to be the route runner, maybe the slot guy, because he was really good out of the slot with the Colts, and he's not a burner. He's not like this super unbelievable athletic guy. He's a good complement to DK Metcalf, and yeah, we're paying him $20 million a year, which seems like a lot for a 29-year-old, but it's really not. He's the 25th highest paid receiver in the league, slightly above Wan'Dale Robinson and Romeo Dobbs. So right behind Jerry Jeudy. So it's like he's right in that range that you want your number two receiver, and I think he's going to be a great complement. He's just he's steady. I mean, he doesn't really miss a lot of games, and he's just like a really, really reliable. Again, kind of everybody, not that flashy, but a really solid wide receiver that I think is going to be huge for whoever becomes the quarterback. We've been saying this for 2 years. Having that number two receiver is huge, and Michael Pittman Jr. really solidifies that. So great trade by Omar Khan. Gave up he moved back 12 picks, I think, is all he
Yeah,
did, because we got him in a later pick for like an earlier pick, but we moved back 12 spots, I think is all it really ended up being. So seems like a steal, especially late in the draft. So great job by Khan.
yeah. 6 seasons in the NFL for Pittman. Two of those over 1,000 yards. He has just under or just over 5,000 career yards receiving, 25 total touchdowns. I mentioned he's had a ton of different guys throw to him, right? The Colts have had a lot of turnover at the
Yeah.
quarterback position over the last 5 to 6 years. So this is someone, again, I think he can come in and be a consistent piece for the Steelers. Of course, pending staying healthy, you say that for everyone, but you mentioned that he's been pretty healthy throughout his career. He's played 17, 16, 16, 16, 17 games. So
Yep.
he's going to be a guy that hopefully gets along well with DK, complements him well, and brings, another big body to the Steelers. You mentioned his size, 6'4", 220. This is a great guy that, maybe Mike McCarthy's going to say, hey, it's about time that we use the middle of the field. Pittsburgh
Oh,
Steelers haven't done
yeah.
this in a while, and this is the guy that's going to be able to help open that up for us. And then, once you get that going, then DK breaks loose. Then you have your tight ends getting involved. You can use guys like Rico Dowdle out of the backfield and Jalen Warren. And, man, it can be really, really exciting if you kind of have one missing piece and you get it, what that can do, right?
Yep.
So this is something we've been talking about for a while, and it goes back to kind of what you had said with Roman Wilson, thinking that was going to be the guy, and now it feels like we're great here, and that we don't have to spend a super early pick in the draft either
Yes.
to get a wide receiver, right? I'm not going to be surprised if the Steelers in the fourth, fifth, or sixth round pull up a wide receiver that they can maybe develop. We have a great track record with getting wide receivers, but we don't have to spend an early pick, on a wide receiver or a corner, like you said
Yep.
earlier. So
I think that's a big
pretty
key
exciting.
to all of this offseason stuff. It seems like they found guys for their biggest holes. So whether that's wide receiver, corner, safety, even they found guys that can be players and starters, plug and play starters that allows them to go more best available or the guys they really want. They're not pigeonholed to need to get a wide receiver or need to get a corner in the first round. And we have so many picks in this draft. Having flexibility is going to be huge. And so I think that's really important. The other piece of this, John O. Smith is gone, which I don't think we mentioned. And his number one fan, Arthur Smith, is also gone. And I think that's a really big move for the offense too. And I think that's an addition by subtraction because that
Mhm.
frees. I mean, and we talked about Connor Hayward as well, but that frees up Pat Fryermuth, and that makes you think Pat Fryermuth is going to be a bigger key piece to this offense, like we've been saying for years. But I think he really is going to take that next step and maybe utilize the middle of the field like you talked about. So yeah, everything's looking good with the pass catchers as long as we have somebody to throw the ball.
Yeah, and we didn't mention that Calvin Austin is also gone as
Right.
well. Ended up going to the Giants. So if you look at the depth chart, we are I would say a little thin.
Yeah.
Given your top three guys are probably DK, Michael Pittman, and then Roman Wilson. But I would definitely anticipate that we sign some other vets for 1 year deals, or
Yeah.
you get someone who's going to come in and end up playing some games like they always have, like Ben Skoranek and Scotty Miller and whoever it might be. So um, I think we probably will draft a wide receiver, but
Yeah.
we don't have to spend a super early pick, right?
Right.
So that's probably exciting. Um, so yeah, lots of really cool stuff that the Steelers are doing this offseason, and I think it's a testament to Omar Khan, trying to solidify himself as this GM and saying that, hey, if Mike Tomlin's gone, I'm going to continue to try and make a name for myself and show you that I'm invested and I'm making the right moves, and he's pulling his weight. So I'm glad he's still here. I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the draft. So this can kind of transition us there, but I think we're in a really good spot, I would say, with the Steelers for now.
Yeah, I mean, in the draft and free agency, the one area we haven't really figured out, or that we have some more holes, which could lead to what our first round draft pick is offensive lineman. The right side and center we'll obviously go with Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, and Troy Fatanu. But that left tackle position, are we doing a battle with Broderick Jones and Dylan Cook? Because is Broderick Jones even going to be healthy? They're saying that neck injury is really bad, and nobody even knows if he'll be ready for the season. So that left tackle position could be a hole we have, and then left guard with Isaac Seumalo leaving. Right now, Spencer Anderson is slotted to be the left guard, but then you lose your swing tackle and that extra lineman, which I don't know if Mike McCarthy would even want to do that, but you do have a little bit of a hole on that left side, and that's where I look to the draft. It does look like they might try to pick a lineman in that first round. I've seen Vega Iona out of Penn State as a guy being mocked to us a lot at 21. I think we're picked 21. That would be amazing. Like, these are kind of guys that if we had the holes at wide receiver without Michael Pittman, we wouldn't really probably be wasting the first round pick on. And it's not a waste, but we'd probably be forcing ourselves to take a first round wide receiver. And if we can get a guy like Iona, that would really shore up this offensive line and make us one of the stronger offensive line in the league, and really young. So I think that's great. I think that's something to look forward to. I think it's possible they look at a safety. They
Mhm.
could still look at a wide receiver. And then there's always the question of if they're going to go quarterback early in the draft. So I think those are the main things I'm looking to. I really, like you mentioned, we could wait for wide receiver. It's a deep wide receiver class. We have a couple, I think 2 second-round picks and a couple third-round picks. So it'd be cool if we could wait and use one of those picks to take a wide receiver now that we have Pittman and DK. But we'll see. It's kind of open. Usually we have a good idea of who the Steelers are taking. I really don't at this point in time. It's a whole new regime, whole new coaching staff, so there's none of those key tells that we used to see with Mike Tomlin in the crew. So I don't know. It's exciting because of how unknown it is, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a good point, or good points. I'd agree with what you said from a guard perspective,
Yeah.
especially on the left hand side with losing Sayamalu. Safety comes to mind to me with talk about we got Brisker in for a year. Deshaun Elliott has 2 more years on his contract. Jalen Ramsey is Jalen Ramsey, so that's probably a spot that I think we address we talked a little bit about wide receiver. Let's talk about quarterback in a second, but maybe just one that you didn't mention too is the inside linebacker
Yeah.
position. I know
Good point.
Cole Holcomb is someone that we signed, but Patrick Queen has 1 year left on his deal. There's rumors that he might get traded, or
Yeah.
who knows what happens there. So that could always be something that we look to kind of fill as well. And I don't know. I think we go into this draft, like you said, finally at a position where there's not a glaring need, right? It's not like the Pittsburgh Steelers have this huge gap. aside from the quarterback, so maybe we can go there right now. But I'm excited. And by the way, we're both going to be at. I'm at least going to be at the first night of the draft. I don't know how many days you're going to go, how much you're going to see, but that'll be really cool for us to experience in Pittsburgh, to draft a guy that hopefully will become a staple piece of what we hope to be a Super Bowl team in the next couple of years, right? That'd be awesome. So,
Yeah.
yeah, very excited for that. But
Yeah, and we're
um,
not saying there's no holes. Like there are, but there's no like in the last couple of years there have been obvious holes, and we like linemen or whatever it's been. And so yeah, I think that's the exciting thing, knowing we're going to be there, knowing it's in Pittsburgh with tons of Steelers fans there, just not having an idea or I don't know. I feel like it could be boring if you know exactly who they're going to pick. So the fact that we get to learn with everybody else standing right beside us is going to be super fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's wrap up with our thoughts on quarterback, because
Yeah,
the only other thing to mention is we have the draft at the end of April, and then we start to get into rookie minicamp, but then the summer's kind of a dead period, until we start to get to OTAs and training camp and all that stuff. So we'll probably be quiet for a good bit, but I think what might make a splash is if something happens with quarterback, right? I think,
yeah,
to me, all signs are kind of pointing to, whether we like it or not, Aaron Rodgers coming back for his second year with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
yeah.
Um, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. I don't love the idea of it. But at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot that's out there for the taking with the Steelers in terms of quarterbacks who are on the market. You can make the argument, what you have with Mason Rudolph. Is he a starting quarterback in the NFL? Probably not. Will Howard, who you got, is he a guy that you are going to give the reins to and let him run and see what you have with him? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know who's left in free agency, but their names aren't that great.
No.
And this isn't a great quarterback class. And, the top guys that folks want are probably going to come off super early. So, if I was a betting man, I would say that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback for the Steelers in 2026. He's got ties to McCarthy, obviously. He's being super non-committal, which is like, that's the thing that bothers me the most
Yeah,
about him, is like, dude, just say you're going to come back, or just say you're not going to. Like,
yeah,
I know you're still taking time to make your decision, whatever, but to me, it's a bad look, for him and for the team to kind of be non-committal like this. I don't like kind of the privilege mindset that's there, if that makes sense. But
yeah. It does.
um, can he do a good job? Yeah, I think he made the Steelers a game or two better than we probably would have been last year. But I still think that some of the reasons the Steelers didn't succeed were, at his detriment, if you
Yeah,
were to ask me. So, I think we might see much of the same if Aaron Rodgers comes back. Granted, it's a new head coach, new offense. We're going to have new players, so maybe things would be different. But it is hard for me to believe that we'll see anything more than 10-7 with Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback again. So that's my take. But I'll allow you to jump in with your thoughts.
no, I mean I have a lot of the same opinions. I do think that all the signs are pointing to Aaron Rodgers is going to be our starting quarterback and will come back. I just hope. I mean, the signs are also pointing to there is a deadline. Maybe he doesn't want to admit that there's a deadline, or nobody wants to come out and blatantly say it. But there was a report by the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette a week or so ago that's kind of came from Rooney saying, "Yeah, we want to know before the draft," and everybody's been saying that, mentioning that. I hope that's the case, because if we go into the draft and he's not on our team, I personally think we should move on and just and do whatever we want to do in the draft and figure it out
Mm-hmm.
later. But I agree. He needs to make a decision in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks before that first round of the draft is on Thursday in Pittsburgh. And I do think he's going to be the starting quarterback. Would I love to see Will Howard get a chance? Yeah, sure. I would love to see that. But if they don't feel comfortable with him, then maybe we do have to wait another year and do the Aaron Rodgers experiment one more time. The draft isn't that great. We hope next year's draft's going to be better for quarterbacks, but we said that about this draft last year.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to know. I will like I am happy with one thing. There was rumors that they were interested on Kirk Cousins. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
said that we should have been in on Joe Flacco. They haven't signed any of these older veteran guys that are 100% bridge quarterbacks. I think Aaron Rodgers better than all of those guys. And I do like that they did not go down that route, because if they were going to do that, they might as well just take in a rookie and had them compete with Will Howard, and even, I mean, Mason Rudolph if you want, but have the young guys try for a year. But it seems like they're probably committed to Aaron. I don't know. I'm okay with that. I'm not like ecstatic about it, but I'm not mad about it either. It just, yeah, it sucks the quarterback class isn't as good as we thought it was going to be, but maybe next year's will be better. Or maybe they really like a guy and they're going to give him a chance. But we need to know Aaron Rodgers' decision by the draft. I mean, we have to know it, and it sounds like they're pushing for that. We'll see what ends up happening.
I wouldn't be mad at all if we have our decision by the draft. I think what would
Yeah,
really just anger me is if it continues to, spill out and we don't actually
yeah,
have any type of, solid answer from Aaron, in 3 weeks. That would be really, really frustrating. So, I'm trying to look at some of these names for some quarterbacks that are available right now and really, you know, Tyrod Taylor, Jimmy Garoppolo, gosh,
Russell Wilson.
Taylor Heineke, right? Like these are some of the only guys that have experience. So, yeah, there's not much there that's left for the taking. I think the Steelers are going to get a quarterback in this draft no matter what. The decision with Aaron Rodgers is probably going to determine to what extent we make a trade or
Yeah,
get on a guy that we like, better sooner rather than later. Um, we'll see what happens. That's going to be a big question mark, right? I think, like you said, a lot of signs are pointing to drafting a lineman, but as we know, anything can happen, right? And the Steelers definitely have been a team where we we have our needs and we fill those needs, but we've also been a team where we take the best player that's available as well. And
yep,
and that's a pretty cool thing that happens. If we sign a great running back or we sign a great tight end, and it doesn't feel like we need that, but they could be a great addition to the team, then so be it. So lots to be excited for with regards to the draft, and hopefully we know what's going on at the quarterback position by April 24th, but only time will tell.
yeah. They had to learn from last year. That's like my only comment. They can't drag this into
Into
June.
the
So
summer.
we'll see.
I agree. All right, well, I think we covered everything we wanted to.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, it's good to get back and talk Steelers with you.
Yeah, well, I'm sure at some point, we'll talk kind of our draft reactions and talk about some of the guys who will be new additions to the Steelers over the summer and maybe talk about anything else that's happening. But for now, you know, we'll be on a hiatus for a good bit and we'll be at
Yep.
the draft representing the real Steel in person and exciting things to come. So we thank everyone for listening today and appreciate it. And we'll be back with you guys soon.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks everyone. Peace.